Assalamu alaikum dear students. Today we are going to discuss about the oxygen cycle. That's how this oxygen is circulated between the abiotic and the biotic components of the ecosystem. First of all, let's take a look at the different forms in which oxygen is present in the two components of the ecosystem. In the abiotic component, this oxygen is present in the hydrosphere, it's present in the atmosphere, it's present in the lithosphere in different forms. In the atmosphere, this oxygen is present in its elemental form, that's O2. And this O2 is the second most abundant gas in the atmosphere, makes up to around 21% of the total atmosphere. Apart from the elemental form, oxygen is also present in the atmosphere in the combined states, like it forms oxides with sulfur, with nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and it's also a part of water. In the biotic component, oxygen is present as a part of different biomolecules like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, nucleic acids. So in today's lecture, we will learn about the flow of this oxygen between the two components of the ecosystem, that's the abiotic component and the biotic component of the ecosystem. First of all, let's talk about the atmospheric oxygen. You already know that almost all living organisms, they need oxygen for the process of respiration. And in the process of respiration, when we define respiration is simply the breakdown of food to get energy. The food, for example, this is glucose molecule. In the process of respiration, this glucose molecule, with the help of oxygen, is broken down to get energy in the form of ATP. Apart from this energy in the form of ATP, the end products of respiration are carbon dioxide and water. And these carbon dioxide and water molecules, they are released from the body of the living organisms. They are released in different forms and they go back into the atmosphere. And from atmosphere, green plants use these two compounds, that's carbon dioxide and water, in the process of photosynthesis to prepare their food in the form of glucose again. And in the process of photosynthesis, there is generation of one gas, that's oxygen, and that oxygen is again released into the atmosphere. So this is how this whole cycle goes, how this oxygen is circulated between the abiotic and the biotic component of the ecosystem. पहले जो atmosphere में oxygen होता है, that's in the elemental form, that's O2, that's utilized by the living organisms in the process of respiration, और respiration में breakdown of food हो जाता है, for example glucose, to get energy. And apart from energy, carbon dioxide and water are also formed. And these two compounds, that's carbon dioxide and water, they are released back into the atmosphere. And from the atmosphere, green plants use these two compounds in the process of photosynthesis to prepare their food, that's C6H12O6. And apart from this glucose, oxygen is also formed in the process of photosynthesis, which is released into the atmosphere again. And from the atmosphere again utilized by the living organisms. So this is how this oxygen is circulated between the two components of ecosystem. Now let's talk about another molecule or another elemental form of oxygen, that's ozone. When we talk about the oxygen which which living organisms use in the process of respiration, that's in the form of O2. That's two oxygen atoms are combined together. But when we talk about ozone, its chemical formula is O3. That means 3 atoms of oxygen are combined together to form one molecule of ozone. This ozone is present in the layer of atmosphere which is called as stratosphere. जब हम atmosphere की बात करते हैं, it has many layers. The first one, which is near the earth's surface, that's called as troposphere. Troposphere के बाद जो layer आती है, that's called as stratosphere. And in this stratosphere, ozone is present. This ozone, you know about the chemical formula, it's O3. Chemically, it's O3. And it's present in the stratosphere of the atmosphere. Now, what's the function of this ozone layer? This ozone layer actually protects the living organisms from the harmful radiations coming from the sun. And these harmful radiations are actually UV rays, or we can say ultraviolet rays. These UV rays or ultraviolet rays, they may have various drastic consequences if they reach the surface of the earth. They can, for example, they can cause skin cancer or different types of cancers. They can also damage plants. They can also damage the eyesight. So this ozone actually protects the living organisms from the harmful UV radiations coming from the sun. So we can say that this ozone layer in the stratosphere, it acts as a blanket and it protects the living organisms on the earth from the harmful radiations coming from the sun. But there are some chemicals, these are mostly artificial chemicals, which reduce the concentration, which decrease the concentration of this ozone in the stratosphere. These chemicals are mostly CFCs, that's chlorofluorocarbons. And these chlorofluorocarbons actually are responsible for the depletion of ozone layer. That means the decrease in the concentration of ozone in the stratosphere. So these CFCs actually, they convert this ozone, that's O3, into diatomic form, that's O2. And O2 does not have the property by which it can protect us from the harmful UV rays. So with the increase in the concentration of these CFCs in the atmosphere, the concentration of ozone decreases. These CFCs are used in different industries. It's used as coolants in refrigerators, ACs. So the concentration of these CFCs is to be reduced to protect our ozone, to protect this ozone layer, which acts as a blanket around the Earth's atmosphere. Ozone hole was discovered above Antarctica. Ozone hole is simply that area, that region, we can say, where the concentration of ozone is very low, where there are low concentration, where there are low levels of this ozone in the stratosphere. And one such region was discovered above Antarctica. So this was all about the ozone layer. First we discussed about the oxygen cycle, how oxygen is circulated between the biotic and the abiotic component, and then the importance of ozone layer, where it is present, what's its chemical nature, and how is it useful, and how is it depleted by various chemicals. So this was all about the oxygen cycle and the ozone layer. Thank you.